I'm Anna with Henrico Recreation and Parks, and today we have a little how-to. This is the time of year where fishing is big, and June in Virginia has free fishing weekend. We are going to have a fish craft art activity. But this activity is something you can do with your preschool and you can do along with your preschooler. And this comes from a ceramic piece inspired by that. But since I don't have all the equipment to make that, I am going to improvise and use egg cartons. We are going to make an egg carton mobile. So what we're doing is we're starting with a cardboard egg carton, and you want cardboard because it absorbs paint better. Foam cartons are nice and they're more durable, but the cardboard is going to take to the paint that you want. I discovered that cutting the cardboard was kind of tricky, just getting in and out of all the crevices. So what I did is I just tore them. I tore out the parts that I wanted, and then I went back and cut them clean. So the parts of the cardboard I'm calling the deep wells, I'm calling the bulb, and the pointy parts I'm calling the peak. So you'll know what I'm talking about. And you need as many bulbs as you want scales for your fish, and you want 2 peaks, one for the head and one for the tail. So it's pretty easy to tear. You have to almost be careful because you might tear more than you need. And once you've got the parts that you want, I went back in and I just trimmed it up. And by trimming it up, I didn't cut it too low because that leaves your scales very small, very shallow. So I left some of the parts on the end that stick out, but it really doesn't matter. So I've got my bulbs here and my peak. And what we're going to do is we're just going to start painting. So I'm going to work on, I think I like a koi fish today. So I'm going to try for that. And I just kind of mix and blend and mush it all together and play with it and see what it turns out like. I did paint the inside just to kind of cover up the cardboard look about it. So I painted all the internal parts first and let that dry and then flipped it over. You can do whatever works for you. But being that koi fish are orange and white and black, I just started gooping it all on, and I've learned a shortcut by my friends here at Henrico Recreation and Parks. Sometimes you can just squirt the glue right onto your piece and paint from there. You don't even have to use a tray. And depending on your paint, you might want to put a second coat. Just depends on how translucent you like it, because like I said, it absorbs the paint, but I still have lots of color here. And then I didn't even wash my brush. I just went in and made some kind of parts. But you got to realize your paint will mix together after a while. So I'm going to wash that to get the black off before I put any white. Get some spots. You can also let each layer dry if you want to make your colors not blend so much. So we've started there with the koi look. There's one scale. You just continue to do all of your scales and your head and your tail, the colors that you want. You can make it a magical rainbow fish. You can do a koi fish, or you can do whatever colors you like. So we've got those there, and like I said, magically, I have all my koi bulbs and peaks painted here. So to string it together, you're going to need string of some sort, yarn, twine, thread. This was some hemp twine I had laying around. You want it to be twice as long as you want your fish mobile to hang. Plus add a couple of inches because you're going to be tying knots, and that takes up length. I have an embroidery needle, which has a big eye, which helps me to get my needle threaded. So to thread this fish, we're going to start at the tail. And if you notice the peak, they have big holes in the peak. So you have to be conscious of that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by tying a knot 1 inch from the bottom of my thread. So these are the 2 ends. I'm going to tie a knot about 1 inch from the bottom. And the twine I have has a pretty big knot, so I'm not going to worry about that. But then I'm going to start beading. And I've chosen some beads to match my koi. So you're going to put all your beads on and pull them to the bottom. If I thread my tail, it's such a big hole, it's just going to drop down and cover up a lot of my beads. So what I'm going to do is put a spacer bead in there, and that's just a large enough bead that won't go through the hole, but will hold my tail up away from the beads a little bit, and I have a pony bead. But what I need to do is to tie a knot about 1 inch from the beads themselves. So I'm just tying a loop with the threads, and I've got a big knot there, but this is not big enough. It's still going to go through, this is going to slide over the knot. So I want to put that spacer bead. Pony bead's a big bead. It gets stuck on the knot. That's what I want. I don't want it to slide down. And then when I put this is the tail. When I put the tail, it covers the bead, but it doesn't cover all my decorative beads. And you can see some string there left, but that's okay. I like the string the way it looks. I like hemp string. So you want to wait till all your bulbs and peaks are dry before you do this. The bulbs themselves don't have a hole to start with at all. So by using my embroidery needle, I just pokes a hole through the bulb. But what I need to do first, again, is tie another knot about 1 inch from my last bulb or tail. So I'm going to tie another knot about 1 inch down. So that's going to hold my bulb in place, my fish scale. And then slide that over it. And they kind of come together. So I'm going to tie another knot about 1 inch above. You know what I'm noticing also is these knots really take up a lot of space. So make sure you have your string cut long enough. It's going to give you all the distance. So I'll do one more and show you how that's all coming together. Another knot about 1 inch from the last one, the last scale. And I'll show you what we look like from here. Looking good. So my scales kind of overlap, but it's okay if you make your knot so that they don't. Kind of give you, it looks like fish bones almost when you do that. So you're going to go all the way up, and I'm going to skip a part. So now we're going to come to the head. We're going to make this a baby fish. And you're going to put another peak, but again, there's a big hole there. So I'm going to put another spacer bead. Got to tie the knot. Put my spacer bead on. Oops, my twine was not a large enough knot. That went right through it. So what you can do there is just tie a double knot on top of the first one, and that will expand your knot so that hopefully your bead won't drop over it. Then we'll put the head, and there is our fish. Now we're going to add some more beads, because I like beads. I like beads as an embellishment. I think that really just makes something look finished. So we've got our final beads here, and there's our little fish. Now to finalize it, we have our thread doubled over. So what you're going to do is just cut that needle off and tie another knot so you'll have a loop to hang your fish by. It's not done yet though. I mean, you could hang this up, but people might not know exactly what it is. So what we need to do is we need to put some scales, some more scales on the tail and the head, so we know it's a fish. So what I do is I just squish the tail to flatten it out a little bit, and I take a marker, just using a Sharpie, and kind of draw tail lines so you can see that it might look more like a fish on both sides. Like I said, we're not perfect here. We're just making what we can. And for the head, you can also squish it or leave it open. And I would draw 2 eyes. And I'm just drawing them on. You can use Google eyes. You can paint them on. Whatever works for you. And basically, I'm just doing a circle within a circle to look like a fish. So here is our fish mobile. And once you hang them up, they make a really nice noise. So maybe this is something that will attract your fish and bring them in for you. So have fun, enjoy. Thanks for joining me.